It's April 1st. No, this is not a joke. We're going to have a very good conversation today about mental health. And we have some awesome guest hosts on today, Lance Jackson and my own mother, Linda Lane Frazer. So we're gonna do a little bit of an introduction like we always do, and then we're gonna get them into their very specific topics they're gonna discuss today. And then at the end, we'll do the same thing as we always do with the recipes and the open discussions. I do ask that if you can, try to keep your comments to the chat for when our presenters are presenting. Obviously, you're always more than welcome to talk while I am talking, but for the sake of timing and purposes, please just keep it to yourself or till the end. Okay. Veronica, do you want to add anything before we start?
Actually, if you want to pop up the slideshow, I can go over the disclaimer.
Yep, sounds good. Give me 2 seconds.
So, our very formal disclaimer. We are certified holistic nutritional practitioners. We are not doctors. So that means we cannot diagnose, prescribe, or medically treat any conditions. But what we can do for you is recommend beneficial foods, fitness tips, lifestyle hacks, and holistic tips on how to live a healthier life. So our goal with this podcast is to educate you and help you expand your way of thinking about things like food and the ways you can enhance your life.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, there's people. I can still see them. Okay, so we're gonna get right into the do's and don'ts this one. And guys, take this as I literally say it, okay? I'll cover the do's if you want to cover the don'ts, Veronica. Um, So do consult a therapist if you are experiencing symptoms related to stress, anxiety, depression, or any mental health disorder. If you have trouble finding one, talk to the two that are in this call today. Um, do incorporate healthy foods like citrusy foods, dark chocolate, or healthy fats to improve your central nervous system. These are common foods that we would recommend for dopamine hits, for serotonin boosters, like just all these are things that we naturally go towards when we are feeling anxious, sad, depressed. So these are things that we would, as holistic nutritionists, incorporate into your lifestyle. Okay.
Add a
Yep.
highlight there on healthy fats.
Yep.
There's a difference between a fat and a healthy fat. A box of cookies that has healthy stamp on the packaging doesn't mean it's healthy. Read the ingredients. You know what's good for you. You know what's not good for you. A healthy fat is something like coconut oil
Yep.
or like MCT oil is a great one. So it's important to just kind of distinguish what you're using.
Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, we would love the healthy cookies, but we all know better, okay? I love Oreos, guys. It's not a mystery that I love them, okay? But at the end of the day, I'm not eating them every single day. So just keep that in mind. Do incorporate a light or heavy workout every day to help boost brain development. This is crucial for a lot of people who don't realize that, like, if you've ever heard of like the days that you just want to stay in your bed all day long and not get up, that's a symptom of depression. And that is why it's important that you at least get up, stretch, do a lighter heavy workout. I'm not expecting you to go run a marathon. I'm just expecting you to get up, walk around the block, or something that just at least pushes your brain or your body a little bit. Okay. Even cooking in a kitchen is considered to me a light workout, depending on if I'm making pasta or not. I feel like,
Roasted a turkey, those pans can
or
be heavy.
roasting a turkey. Yeah,
Those pans are heavy. That's deadlifting.
I consider that a light workout, or maybe even a heavy one. Go ahead, Veronica. You can cover the don'ts.
So, important things to not do. Do not take supplements without talking to a healthcare professional, as some can affect your regular medications. Some foods can also affect your medications. Like, for example, if you're on blood pressure,
You said while you were trying to
it's
start
not
something.
smart to eat grapefruit a lot of the time. So, it's really something you want to ask your doctor about. They should know the answers to all of your questions about this. Telehealth is also there if you don't have a doctor that you can rely on. Also, don't push your feelings aside because you're busy, tired, or think it won't help. Everyone needs someone to talk to sometimes, even a therapist.
Mhm.
Talk to your friends, your family. Um,
Mhm.
there's kids help phone for kids, but there's not a lot of stuff for adults as much. But there are resources out there. So just if you need them, reach out. We have a list.
Absolutely. Thank you, Veronica. So next, we're going to cover April's produce, okay? take a screenshot, do whatever your heart desires with this, but these are the top foods for produce during this month, okay? Does anybody like rhubarb?
I
I
love
feel
her.
like, yeah, I feel like there's some interesting people out there who 1000% like to have rhubarb in a pie or a jam or whatever.
I'm actually growing rhubarb
Rhubarb
at my
strawberry.
place
Yeah.
because I'm making rhubarb wine this year.
Ooh, I want some of
I used to,
It's super easy.
I used to
Super easy
stew
to
it
make.
with honey for my
Yep.
kids when they were babies as a dessert.
Yeah, I know people who would just pick it off the branch and just put a little bit of sugar on it and then just eat it. What about you, Lance? What were you saying?
I love rhubarb with strawberries for jam, rhubarb strawberry jam. I
Yep.
absolutely love that. I also, as a kid, like someone was just saying, rhubarb with sugar. When I was a kid, I'd walk around with a small little bowl of sugar, white sugar, and the rhubarb, and I'd pick it right from the garden and eat it like that all day long.
I used to call it nature's popsicle.
I think the best recipe I've come up with for rhubarb was a strawberry rhubarb sourdough bread.
Interesting. Anything is
Knead the
possible.
rhubarb and the strawberries right into there. It's wonderful.
Good
I
to
see
know.
it, and I absolutely love that. So I do know someone in our audience today is an expert in sourdough. So hopefully I will see some of that coming this summer for myself.
We should do that topic at the end of the year. Cultures and like probiotics
Fermentation.
and yeah, just fermented anything,
Call
basically.
it fully fermented.
Fully fermented. Okay, future topic, guys.
Future topic. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. So obviously the next one I want to talk about is beets. Beets are obviously really, they stain. And if you haven't seen like natural ways to dye an egg for Easter, that's the way. That's the way to go. Okay, this
Ways
boiling
to
some
dye your
beets.
hands red.
Yeah, exactly. Wear gloves if you don't want your fingers to be red because these nails do not like turmeric or beets whenever I use them. But beets are really good for fiber and like antioxidants, stuff like that. And a lot of people use it actually for a natural detox as well. Speaking of detoxing foods, cabbage. Same thing again. We're gonna have like a lot of repetition when it comes to produce right now. But come the summer months, that's when everything just becomes way more open. Okay. Like tomatoes, peppers, anything that needs that hot climate in order to thrive. But we're shifting away now from grounded foods and now coming to the surface. So things like cabbage, it will obviously grow out of the ground. Okay. So keep that in mind going forward. And cabbage is naturally detoxifying and naturally cooling. Okay. So consider that if you're ever like, if you love your coleslaw like I do, that's a good, I love cabbage. I put cabbage in everything.
Cabbage
Onion,
is life.
cabbage is life. Yes. Onions are obviously in season right now. Parsnips. Does anybody eat parsnips?
Heck
Right.
yes.
Yeah, I
They
personally
are one of the key ingredients in my roasted carrots and my vegetable soup.
perfect. And they're way better. Can you highlight why they're better than carrots?
I don't know if I say they're better than carrots.
Okay. But I
They're
mean,
different than carrots. They have
yes,
different benefits, right? So
of course. But yes, parsnips, definitely add them if you haven't had them recently. And then of course, sweet potato. So consider we're getting like obviously a lot of these are hard, like a rock and grow in the ground or whatever, basically. So now we're getting towards more softer things in the next month. I will have a lot of produce of the month. So keep that in mind.
ooh, I like that idea, Jen.
Yeah, right. Parsnips are a great addition to sweet potato. Yep, shepherd's pie. Okay, so now we're gonna get into our first presenter, Lance Jackson. I'm gonna stop sharing so you can share your presentation now. And yeah, he has the floor now, so feel free to go ahead, Lance.
All right. Give me a second. I'll just get this sharing. There we go. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity that you guys gave me here to present. This is a topic that's really I'm very passionate about. And so before I dive into it, I'll sort of give some people some background on me because I realize not everyone knows me. So as Lyndsay said, my name is Lance Jackson. I'm a social worker, been a social worker for the past 3 decades plus. I am now almost done my nutrition program through IHN, and will shortly here be a certified nutritionist as well. I am a specialist in trauma therapy and men's health. I deal a lot with helping men find themselves and helping them redefine themselves in today's chaotic world. So without further ado, I'm going to delve into my topic. So men, mood, meals, reclaiming mental health through food. This is a way to tune your body and upgrade your brain. Right. So why does this matter? Well, as we look at the slide, we can see that 1 in 10 men experience anxiety or depression, but less than that seek help. And one of the interesting things is that when we talk about anxiety and depression, we have to take into account suicide. And the vast majority of suicides are by men. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that men don't report, men don't seek out help. Men feel that there's a stigma attached to saying, I need help, there's something wrong. And this is a huge problem, because when we have this type of mentality, it means that we walk through life alone and in pain. We walk there in silence, and we don't let people know how we feel or what's happening to us. And this becomes an issue. There's a lot of different reasons why things like this happen to men. We talk about use of caffeine as a stimulant, try and cover things up, try and make us feel better. We'll cover things up with alcohol and drink our problems away, or finish our shift, come home, grab a case of beer, and sit in front of a game, sit in front of sports, and avoid and disconnect from people and things that bother us. And this is a real issue, because it really becomes a mindset of avoidance, both something that affects our work, our relationships, and ultimately spills over into us as men, and when we're raising children, and what we're giving them as an example on how to cope. Next slide, please. One of the greatest things that we underestimate when we talk about mood and mood disorders, especially amongst men, is the impact of food and how food affects us. When we talk about ultra-processed food, that means food like McDonald's, Subway, A&W, right? Papa John's, any of these different restaurants. The food is designed to make you want it, to crave it, but it causes inflammation. And what inflammation does is it alters how our body feels. But more importantly, a lot of this food causes blood sugar spikes and crashes. So you have this peak, and then you have a crash. And what you're doing is you're causing cortisol to be released, which is our stress hormone. And that stress hormone helps us regulate sugar. And it helps us get ready for the fight or flight response. But over time of having these ups and downs, these ebbs and flows, ultimately what we do is we burn out our adrenal systems, and it makes everything worse. It causes us to be tired all the time and irritable, and not have a great mood, not really want to do things. So when we talk about food, we've got to talk about what kind of foods should we be eating. And realistically, it should be, meat, veggies, things that are in season, things that you're getting from the most raw perspective you can. In other words, the least amount of processing possible for when it hits your plate and then it hits the gut. That's how we're going to do it, because if not, what happens is we cause dysbiosis in the stomach, which means a fancy word for meaning that you are off balance. So you destroy the equilibrium of your body. And that in itself affects things like serotonin, which is your feel-good drug. And most serotonin, estimates are around 90%, is made in the gut, not in the brain, contrary to what people think. And so this is a big piece of change people can do, is just make a little bit better choice. I have an awesome rule that I think is awesome personally, and that's my 80-20 rule. And it's something I live by. 80% of the time, I try to eat clean, make great choices. And the other 20%, like Lyndsay says, if I want to enjoy a package of Oreos, I can have a few without the guilty feeling, because 80% of the time, I'm not choosing that. I'm choosing things like fat bombs or an apple or carrots fresh from our garden. These types of choices, which are beneficial to health and well-being. Next slide. So when we look at men and patterns in their diets, one of the things that we have to consider is the fast food, high caffeine, the energy drinks, the additional Tim's coffee runs, and low fiber meals. Fiber is really important because fiber helps us find things and get rid of it through our fecal matter. And in other words, it helps clean us out. The other problem is that men frequently will skip breakfast. They're in a hurry, they wake up, they're trying to deal with everything and show up to jobs on time. But the problem with that is that then you're eating later in the day, and that leads to late night eating, snacking in front of the movies or the sports games or in front of your Nintendo or Xbox, and you're making bad choices at that point because, again, you're not allowing proper digestion. And late night snacking often, sadly, is chips that are covered in bad oils, which cause inflammation and affect your mood, and take away things like minerals, zinc, magnesium, affect things like B12, which is the vitamin that gives you energy. Hence why a lot of people, as they get older and their bodies build up this toxin levels, end up having to take B12 injections in order to give them the energy that they need, because their B12, as they say here in Newfoundland, is in their boots, and meaning that there's nothing there. And that's a huge issue. So really, when we look at the patterns that men have, it's about making changes. One of the changes I like to encourage people to do when it comes to coffee is wait 90 minutes to 120 minutes before you have that first cup of coffee. What you're doing is you're allowing your body naturally to waken up and to start getting going. Having a nice glass of warm water will help. Having lemon water, even better, or one step up, if you want to supercharge it, put limes in it. Limes actually have more lemanoids than lemons do, and therefore will actually give you a better boost than just lemons alone. So it's actually a really good way to supercharge the start of your morning. The next thing is make breakfast the night before. Have overnight oats, have something like that. It's easy, it's simple, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Or go to the ultimate breakfast. Every man, in my opinion, should be having this at least once a week. And for the guys out there listening, now you can say somebody told you to do it. Steak and eggs. Steak and eggs is ultimately the best breakfast, hands down, as far as what you're getting for bang for your buck, for nutrients, for the healthy fats, and how it's going to actually help energize your body and make you feel so much better. And that is ultimately a beautiful thing. Lyndsay? The next thing I want to touch on is the role of mushrooms. Mushrooms are really coming to the forefront, not only in nutrition, but also in therapy and how we do things going forward. We've learned so much, and we're still just at the cusp of understanding the powerhouse that is mushrooms. I'm not going to get too much into it because my good friend Lyndsay is going to delve into that in a little bit, but I wanted to really talk about lion's mane and just say that, again, lion's mane, you can get this in many different ways. You can get this through adding it to shakes, adding it to even like a keto type coffee, which is one of the ways I like. I use a mushroom coffee. I have a mushroom coffee latte, which I absolutely love. It is to die for, FYI. If you've never tried it, give her a run. Reishi helps with stress resilience, helps calm the nervous system down, and helps you get a better quality sleep. So combining something like this with, say, a magnesium biglycinate, which I like because not as vivid dreams at night, I find, for a lot of people I work with, and it works really well. Cordyceps, right? Again, physical and mental energy, they really help supercharge us. They give us a little extra oomph. Chaga, I absolutely love. One of our favorite things here in Newfoundland that's very popular is chaga tea. And we will have that in different ways. I sometimes add chaga tea to a coffee, or I will just have it by itself, or we'll add it to different things. Again, it's a nice way of incorporating nature's own plentiful ingredients that help boost us in many ways. And finally, our favorite for anyone who grew up in the 70s or 80s, magic mushrooms, right? Magic mushrooms have come full circle and now are clinically used to help people with trauma and PTSD, as well as many other significant mental health issues. Now, mind you, these have to be done under clinical watch because there are things you have to be very cognizant of. Not everyone is licensed to do it, and I don't encourage people to do this on their own. Typically, if you're going to be microdosing, you should have somebody following you for the protocol and helping you with that piece of the cognitive therapy component and really doing that psychotherapy with you. Lyndsay? So, supplements. One of my favorite things to talk about, and I think that we throw the word supplements around a lot, and unfortunately, we don't always look at that the way we should, right? We all know our favorite, vitamins, multivitamins that go around, A to Z, right? The problem is that multivitamins should only be looked at if they're high quality and not Centrum, and looking at them as insurance. That's all they are, is nutritional insurance. You should be trying to get as much as you can out of your diet. So things that we can take, and I do encourage people to take some of these things, right? Magnesium, especially men. Magnesium is something that we can use. If you work out, you go to the gym, you got a hard job, you're working construction, taking magnesium glycinate is really good for anxiety, calming the body down, helping with muscle soreness. A B complex, again, methylated is better, but I realize that not everyone can do that. One of the good ones that I really like for B complex is AORs. That's the brand AOR. And again, it's really about getting your energy and stress resilience and really helping the body deal with the type of stress that we have. We have it coming from all different angles. Another one that most men do not get enough of is omega-3s. This helps reduce depression and reduce inflammation. We reduce inflammation, we start feeling more energetic, and we start feeling better. Vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is really important. And I put this here because I think that vitamin D3 in liquid or in a gel cap that's liquid with coconut oil is good. But liquid is really important because our bodies can take it and use it. I take liquid daily with olive oil. I use a good quality of olive oil, and I take a tablespoon of that with my vitamin D3. And that really helps. D3, we need two things. We need cholesterol in the blood, and we need solar radiation. Problem is that you stop and think about how we live our lives as men. Typically, men are in the house, going to a truck or a car, going to an office or a construction site wearing safety gear. In the summer, we've got hats on, we've got all kinds of sunscreen on to protect us. So we don't get the solar radiation we need in order to actually activate that D3 synthesis in the body. And we don't get enough of that. So again, vitamin D3, especially in the winter with men and in the fall, is really important. You can taper depending on yourself and the person you're working with, you'll see, and you'll be able to observe how you feel. And that's the big thing, is knowing yourself and being in touch with yourself. This is something that I really encourage men to do, because men typically do not stay in touch with themselves. And this, again, is an issue. L-tyrosine, again, for the dopamine, again, we look at dopamine rush of TikTok and all the social media reels and stories and everything that people chase, and all these friggin' videos that people watch is just lunacy. But L-tyrosine can help us with that. Probiotics, again, excellent. Nobody can go wrong with some probiotics. Our gut health is important. It's central, whether we're men or women, it is central to how we feel and supporting moods. So I think I covered it all. Next one. Finally, one of the things I want to talk about just briefly is when we talk about dopamine and this chasing and how ADHD. I'm not going to get into ADHD because, again, another presenter is going to present that, and she is an ADHD coach, so she'll dive into that. But again, I deal with a lot with men with ADHD, and one of the very first thing we talk about is how do they fuel their bodies and how do they structure their day? These are important things. Making time to stay hydrated, to avoid sugars and avoid a strictly caffeine diet, which a lot of guys have. And they tend to eat a lower protein diet for the most part. And it's a lot of fast food, a lot of not good quality proteins when they have it. So maintaining that stability is really important. And I think that is key. ADHD is not just about focus. It is really about fuel. How do we fuel our bodies? What are we giving our bodies to work with, right? And I put this in terms that a lot of guys understand. You wouldn't want anyone to stick diesel in your gas engine, because it isn't going to run very well for very long. And then she's going to blow the engine and you got nothing left. And you're going to be replacing that. Unfortunately, with the human body, when we blow the engine, it leads to critical issues. So what I encourage people to do is look at what you're eating, make the best choices possible. It doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg and a kidney, although today's market, maybe an arm and half a leg is real, but eating for your budget, but eating the best quality is what you need to do. And avoiding highly processed foods, avoid the Oreo cookies and the Honey Nut Cheerios, because those things make it worse and they do not help you, and neither does your phone. Your phone should be turned off when you get home or on airplane mode. I don't know about everyone out there, but for me, when we grew up, I always knew when it was time for supper because I'd hear my name and my middle name, and I knew it was time. The only time you ever heard your middle name was either supper time or you were in trouble. So you don't need to live with your cell phone is all I'm trying to get at. Make time for yourself, make time to sit down and read, because ADHD, I can tell you now, does not have to be your downfall. It can actually be your superpower. And I'll throw in the chat in a little bit the link to a blog post I wrote talking all about how ADHD can be your hidden superpower and how most entrepreneurs have ADHD. In fact, the gentleman that owns Virgin Airlines and Virgin Mobile and all of those different Virgin companies, Branson, he's got ADHD. Damien from Shark Tank has ADHD. There are tons of million-dollar, billion-dollar entrepreneurs out there with ADHD. In Canada, we have Dan Martel out of British Columbia, who has several companies and is worth $100 million. And he talks all about how ADHD is a godsend for him and allows him to get accomplished what he's accomplished in life so far. All right, Lyndsay. Finally, reframing. I always love reframing because, again, it's how we look at things, right? We can choose to have a negative perspective or we can have a positive perspective. There is strength in asking for help. There is strength in being aware of who you are and understanding how to regulate yourself. When it comes to regulation, one of the things I love to talk about is stoicism. And by stoicism, I do not mean the term that a lot of people throw around, which means you shut your emotions off. Stoicism is about understanding your emotions, being in touch with your emotions, and understanding when and where to show your emotions. And that is the key piece. In other words, just because someone gets you angry doesn't mean that you need to show them that you're royally ticked off. You can regulate yourself and make a better outcome occur. Ultimately, strength also comes from taking care of yourself. And I say this to parents all the time. Self-care is about loving your children as much as it is about loving yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, how do you give 100% to anyone? And it's something that I really want men to think about because they often try and give until there's nothing left in their tank. So understand you do not have to man up. You do not have to put your big boy panties on or any of these other phrases. Eat well and learn about yourself. Lyndsay? So my only request is that you think about one thing that you can change today, whether that's making a simple adjustment to your morning or to how you eat. Remember the 80-20 rule. Give yourself grace. It's okay. You don't have to do perfect. Nobody does. Thank you all so much.
That was awesome, Lance. I think you had a couple questions in the chat. Darlene said, I thought K2 should be taken to help D3.
Okay, so Darlene, that's a good question. Now, again, K2 helps, as Selena was saying, helps with calcium buildup. So you can take, and many people should take, especially women, with the K2. As men get older, it's really important for them to look at that because, again, we're looking at CVD, cardiovascular disease, and really trying to make sure that the calcium gets pushed in to the bones and gets taken out of places we don't want it.
Awesome. And thank you, Lance. I will try not to eat as many Oreos. But I'm glad. I liked how well-rounded your presentation was today. It felt very informative and very to the point, but I hope a lot, and even if you're not a man, you have a man in your life. I kept thinking the entire time how this was my father. And my mom is laughing because we were texting at the same time. It's okay. He won't watch this recording. But no, I feel like a lot of men, like my father and my brother, 1000% have ADHD. Whether they handle it very well is a completely different conversation. That's probably why my mom went into ADHD counseling because she's been dealing with 3 people in her household her entire life. So, speaking of which, I'm gonna segue now to my mom's presentation, who will be talking about ADHD specifically. But thank you again, Lance. That was great. So Mom, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, you're good to go.
Yeah, thank you. That was really informative, Lance. I enjoyed that. Thank you. We'll have a little bit of overlap too, because some of the things you mentioned, I will be mentioning too. Good morning, everybody. I'm Linda Frazer. Yes, I'm Lyndsay's mom. Yes, we have 3, probably 4 people in our family, in our immediate family that have ADHD. I went into talking about ADHD to, don't want to put this on the right slide. Hold on. Oh, slideshow currently from current slide. Thank you. I went into ADHD. I first had done some cognitive behavioral therapy training. Then I went and got my master's in psychology. And then I went into the do some ADHD education to learn a lot more about ADHD. And the reason is because a lot of the kids that I coach and work with, I was finding have ADHD. A lot of our teens and our young adults today are really struggling with this. And a lot of their parents have decided not to medicate them or really kind of ignore it. And they're really struggling now as they're young adults. So just quick overview. ADHD is a neural development condition. Someone with an ADHD brain has a completely different brain than somebody with a neurotypical brain. They have low levels of dopamine and norepinephrine, sorry, I should say one or the other or both. It impacts the brain's executive functions, which leads to difficulties in managing attention, impulse control, emotional regulation, time management, thoughts, behavior, all of the executive functions they will struggle with. Most of them. They also will have some strengths, and we'll talk about that. Yes, they struggle to pay attention to activities that are not stimulating or not interesting. It can also be an inability to control impulsivity. So that's where the hyper portion of the ADHD comes from. Although the exact cause is still being studied, research suggests a combination of genetics, environmental, and neurological factors as at the root cause. However, I just recently learned if you have a father who has ADHD, you have a 1 in 3 chance of having it. If you have a mother with ADHD, you have a 1 in 5 chance. And if you have both parents, you have a 1 in 2 chance. Sorry. So ADHD is not a deficit in attention. It is actually an overabundance of attention towards many things. And it's often all the time. So what I like to explain to people, my clients, when I first teach them about ADHD, is it's like thinking like you have 4 boxes in your head of information. One about, okay, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? One, when do I have to pick up the kids? When's, those kind of 4 things that are sort of circling in your head. But somebody with ADHD can have more than 20 things that are just constantly trying to get their attention. 20 things or more that are constantly saying, don't forget me, don't forget me, don't forget me. So it can be very overwhelming. And that's why a lot of times they will tune out. A lot of times they can't focus because they're just overwhelmed. And a lot of times, sorry, I let my dog out of my office here. And a lot of times they become extremely exhausted because they are extremely overwhelmed. So it's definitely not laziness or lack of intelligence. Actually, most people with ADHD are more intelligent than those who don't have ADHD, but it is in fact a lack of dopamine production or norepinephrine. And it's whether it's the production of it or the reuptake of it in the brain. And what dopamine does is it sends the messages along to all the other neurotransmitters in your brain to say, like, to get off the couch or go do the laundry or whatever. And if that dopamine level is low, then that's why it's really hard for them to get motivated. So dopamine makes you feel good and it motivates you because you're feeling much better. But if you don't have dopamine because you have ADHD, depression, or anxiety, all 3 of them are a lack of dopamine, then you're going to struggle with motivation. Okay, oh, wrong button. So there's 3 types, the predominantly inattentive, hyperactive, and then a combined, which is the combination of 2. So inattentive is, of course, the not being able to stay focused on the important things rather than the interesting things. If you're at work, you could feel distracted by everything, noises, people, movement, smells, everything. And if you're doing boring tasks, it'll be a real struggle for you to get through your day. Anything that's boring is going to be a real struggle. At home, again, just like I mentioned, I'm able to do mundane tasks, cooking, laundry, cleaning, which can lead to chaos and overwhelm in the home if you're not interested in doing those things or not motivated or have enough energy to do it. Tuning out when being spoken to due to remember all those 20 things going on in your brain. So sometimes it's really hard for them to pay attention because so much is trying to grab their attention. Or they're understimulated with something they're doing, which can be very boring. and difficulty staying focused while reading and frequently losing things. And again, they're losing things because there's so much going on in their brain they're trying to pay attention to. The hyperactive impulsive side is the restless side. So not being able to relax. So it's like being driven by a motor constantly, can't sit still, always got to be doing things, interrupting, blurting things out, acting on impulse. So this could be like spending, eating, any addictions like gambling, all of those things, eating addictions, spending money, shopping, all that increases dopamine. So we're always, as Lance even said, we're always looking for that dopamine. Anybody with ADHD wants, it makes you feel good. Dopamine makes us feel good. So what's going to make me feel good? Oh, I'm going to eat chocolate, or I'm going to drink alcohol, or I'm going to, go and buy a whole bunch of things online or whatever. So all of those things give us the dopamine that we're craving, constantly craving. Also, the reason why we're addicted to high risk activities, certainly not me, but high risk activities gives you, again, that dopamine, that adrenaline, that really, high feeling. And then being unable to pause and think things through before acting. So this is like the, can't think before you speak, or can't think before you act, where that comes in. And then, of course, the combination. So you can have a combination of both, hyperactive and on the unable to pay attention. So as I mentioned earlier, our brains are wired differently. So we think differently. We are creative, as Lance mentioned. We're empathetic, multi-passionate, various interests. A lot of great comics are ADHD. A lot of great speakers, because they're very verbal, have ADHD. Kind, generous, charismatic, gentle, and thoughtful of others. And our personalities have many aspects that go beyond ADHD. Here are some of the strengths. I always like to show this to my clients, because we're always focused on the negative, or why, ADHD is such a negative thing. But I want to, the reason a lot of us are so with ADHD have such low self-esteem is because they say research has come up that we hear 20,000 more criticisms than the average person. And those criticisms are related to our ADHD. So whether it's like, you can't pay attention, you're lazy, you can't do this, you can do that. So that eats away at their self-esteem and allows them to, struggle on a daily basis, even with motivation, because that self-esteem is beating them down. So we're creative, hyper-focused, resilient, energetic, enthusiastic, flexible, intuitive, out-of-the-box thinking. Out-of-the-box thinking is really huge, because somebody with ADHD completely will look at things differently than a neurotypical person. A lot of us are empathetic, and that comes again from the criticisms and the lack of self-esteem. Energetic, in pursuit of interest. So this is something, I have ADHD too. And one of the things I'm struggling with right now is, like, when I start a new hobby, I jump into that hobby 120, 30, 40, 100%, whatever. And I have to buy everything that has to go with that hobby. I have to have everything that goes, that you can do to have that hobby. And so that's what it says with energetic pursuits of interest. And then a month later, I'll probably be bored of it, and it'll all sit there and I won't touch it again, but we'll see. So very spontaneous. Again, we have a great sense of humor and high energy levels. So what are some of the treatments? So I'm going to give you all the options and talk about both. Of course, everybody knows that there are medications for ADHD. And there are stimulants and non-stimulants. We know most of these, Vyvanse, Adderall, Ritalin, Concerta. They increase the levels of dopamine and norepinephrine in our brain. So that's, again, the neurotransmitters that help send the messages to help us pay attention, to focus with our impulse control. They are effective about 70 to 80% for most people. There are side effects. Ones that my son struggles with the most is decrease in his appetite, insomnia, and it can also, if you have anxiety to begin with, it can increase your anxiety or agitation. Stimulants do have a potential for misuse and dependence. They are and they also are a controlled substance. Non-stimulants, something like atomoxetine, Intuitive, and guanfacine, they're all target norepinephrine. It's also a neurotransmitter, as mentioned, that helps you pay attention and focus. They take longer to show results than stimulants. Side effects can be anything really, but nausea, stomachache, fatigue are the most common. They are not any potential for abuse. They are not addictive. And they are used when a non-stimulant is not effective or causes intolerable side effects, or when there's a potential for abuse or addiction. So stimulants means it's not stimulating a person, it's stimulating your dopamine production. Non-stimulants are stimulating the norepinephrine side of your neurotransmitters. Supplements. So Lance went over some of these already. Some research supplements potentially have beneficial for ADHD are omega-3 fatty acids, crucial for brain health, improved focus, memory, cognitive function. Zinc regulates and may improve the brain's response to dopamine, potentially making methylphenidate a stimulant, which is one of the stimulant medications, more effective. Iron, some studies have shown that iron levels are often lower in people with ADHD, and iron is also involved in the dopamine pathways in the brain. Magnesium regulates neurotransmitters, has a calming effect on the nervous system, potentially reducing hyperactivity and agitation. B6 influences chemicals in the brain, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and adequate supplementation can improve mood, alertness, and attention. Vitamin D has shown that children with ADHD have significantly lower levels of vitamin D than those kids without ADHD. So they're usually something that is needed for them. L-theanine is a great, one of the ones I recommended for my clients too. It's also found in green tea. And tyrosine, I never say that. And it's a natural amino acid and it's a precursor to dopamine. So it helps to make dopamine. Of course, before you take any supplements, please, or any medications, obviously you would be consulting your doctor with a medication, but any supplements, please talk to your doctor because some of them can have interactions and cause side effects if you're on medications. And of course, other treatment is therapy and coaching. So therapy is when can help individuals who have emotional challenges and manage co-occurring conditions like anxiety or depression. A therapist can help individuals understand their ADHD and its impacts on their lives, provides tools and strategies to manage emotions and behaviors. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is one of the things I use with my clients, it's an evidence-based treatment, so lots of research on it, helps individuals with ADHD address emotional challenges, developing coping mechanisms and strategies to manage their ADHD successfully. Coaching, also what I do, focuses on developing strategies and skills to help you manage your ADHD symptoms, to help improve things like organization, time management, goal setting, emotional regulation, some metacognition techniques. And it encourages self-awareness and self-advocacy. So when I combine this cognitive behavioral therapy is where I'm working with a client with CBT is to help them with their self-confidence and their self-efficacy, because that is usually really low with somebody with ADHD. So that's what we use. I use the CBT for mostly. Please look for certified coaches with experience working with individuals with ADHD. Consider your needs. So if you're struggling with emotional challenges or co-occurring conditions, therapy is the route to go. If you're looking to develop strategies or skills to manage your ADHD symptoms, coaching can be more appropriate. You can also do a combination of therapy and coaching. I have clients who have a therapist and also work with me as well. So research definitely and find the fit that works best for you and take that time to find somebody that you feel comfortable with working. Lifestyle changes. Of course, I laugh at this. Sleep, aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. Us with ADHD tend to wake often during the night because if we wake up to, say, go to the bathroom or something is on our mind, that's what will wake us up. Our mind starts to go and we just can't settle our mind. So we tend to get up and do something or, distract ourselves to try and get back to sleep. That's what I do. I actually do puzzles at night quite often in the middle of the night for several hours at a time because I just wake up and then my mind starts to go about all the 20 things that are roaming around in my head about what I need to do the next day or what I want to, something that bothered me or ruminate about the day before, et cetera, et cetera. Exercise is great for increasing dopamine levels. Try to aim for about 30 minutes. When I'm stressed or just even tired, I'll take out the dog for a walk. Sometimes just that fresh air, being outside, nature, all of that feeds to your dopamine. And of course, the exercise is great for that too. Yoga, swimming, team sports are also really, really good. The team sports because of the social aspect of it as well. Of course, nutrition is very important. Eating a balanced diet, limit processed foods, sugary drinks, and unhealthy fats. This can contribute to mood swings and hyperactivity. Consider omega-3 fatty acids, which I mentioned. Stay hydrated. Dehydration can worsen ADHD symptoms. Vitamin D, magnesium, and iron supplements, also as mentioned, also will benefit. Stress management. I'm also a certified stress management coach. Stress is one of the worst things on our body. Stress and trauma are the two worst things on our body. Usually one feeds into the other, unfortunately, but stress can cause so many illnesses, cause our body to initiate genes that are in our system that, may be it's hard to explain, like something like I have a blood cancer. It's a gene that's only activated by stress. And it's a gene that, almost like we carry all these different genes and different sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Things inside of us that can be activated by stress. Illnesses. Thank you, Linda. Oh my gosh, one simple word I forgot. Illnesses inside of us that can be activated just by stress. And these can be serious illnesses like cancer, etc. So managing that stress is extremely important. Practicing relaxation techniques, deep breathing is extremely important. When we breathe deeply and slowly for a course of, a few minutes, it lowers our blood pressure, it lowers our cortisol, and it lowers our heart rate. So that's one way to try and de-stress. Meditation, mindfulness, excellent things. Even if you can do 5 minutes a day, there's tons of apps, even your music apps like Spotify, iTunes. Sorry.
This is a reminder.
Sorry.
Give Bentley his
Well,
medication.
it's the first of the month. Give him his medication. That's an ADHD thing right
I
there
was
to
gonna
remind
say
me to
that's
give
an
him his
ADHD thing
medication.
right there.
Reminders are great on phones and everything for those of us with ADHD because we can't remember everything. So in hobbies, that's one of the reasons I have lots of hobbies is they're great for reducing stress and they also increase dopamine. Time management organization. So as I just was saying, create a daily schedule, reminders, breaking down large tasks into smaller tasks. So if you've got something that seems extremely overwhelming, a chore that you do, well, break it down. What's the first thing you need to do before you start that big goal or big task? What's the next thing? And then what's the next thing? So by just breaking them down and doing it step by step is so much more manageable than thinking of the overall goal. Reminders and alarms to help you stay on track and avoid missing necessary appointments. That was almost exactly on time. That was pretty funny. Prioritize tasks. So sometimes we get this overwhelmed feeling like I have a million things to do. And when I start to feel like that, I take out a piece of paper, I write everything down. So I've brain dumped. So when I've dumped some of those 20 things onto paper, my brain's now saying, okay, we don't have to think about that anymore. Great. Phew, one less thing I have to worry about. Then I look at the list and prioritize. So I know what has to get done or what doesn't have to be done right away, just to get that noise out of my head. And learn to manage distractions as best as you can, whether it's having noise canceling headphones, having those other headphones that help cancel out distractions, creating a quiet workspace and limiting interruptions. So that's me, because I know I only had so much time. We're already at 10:30, so it was good timing too. Anybody have any questions or comments? Happy to take them. Anything in the chat, Lyndsay, that you see?
Just Lance commenting a couple things like micro steps for achieving goals. Tetris is actually shown to help as well. Does anybody have any questions for my mom or Lance?
No, but I do want to say thank you because my camera was on and off because I have an ADHD person that lives with me and he hasn't gotten dressed yet. So turn the camera off because that sounds interesting. And he, oh, I'll be right back. I just got to do that. And so that went on a few times. So I was on and off camera. So thank you. He's looking forward to the video replay. I don't know how many times it'll take them to get through it, but thank you both.
Yeah. And thank you, Mom.
Welcome.
Thank you, Lance, for coming on for sure. I know that we're over our time and we still have a couple things that we can talk about. So if you have to go, you can go, but I'm still going to record it and we'll obviously be on YouTube. But we're now going to dive into the magic of mushrooms and some recipes. So if you can stick around for sure. If Mom, you can stop presenting now if you can.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But everybody, if you're looking for counselors or you need some help and advice and stuff like that, reach out. Obviously, I would advise Lance and my mom to stay on until the very end so that we can talk about any questions that anybody might have. But let's dive into the wonderful world of mushrooms now. We obviously talked about it a little bit, so I'll cover this one, Veronica, if you want to cover the next one. That works for you. So lion's mane mushrooms, as Lance mentioned, it has a lot of benefits. If you've ever been to Fortino's, it is there. I have bought it from Fortino's. Sometimes it's in the produce that has been reduced section. Sometimes it's just amongst the other mushrooms. You can buy it in like a black little packaging with wrapping on it. I do buy specifically lion's mane in like these little pre-packed forms because they're already like seasoned everything, and then I just throw them into my like stir fry or my soups or anything that I just want a little bit of like that effect. Honestly, I can't tell you how many times I've used those mushroom packs right before like writing a test or working on an assignment, and it just brings my focus. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring that up today, because it enhances memory, focus, and overall brain health. For mental health, it's good to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression by promoting cell repair. It's also really good for your gut as well. It supports digestion by balancing out the gut bacteria and reducing inflammation. So somebody who might have like IBS, like me, or just overall discomfort in their stomach, you can rebalance it by eating lion's mane mushrooms. And then they also have anti-inflammatory properties. So they actually protect against oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. So think about that in the next time you want to like eat something that is like nutritious and beneficial to your mental health and filling. And if you don't like mushrooms, then this is not for you, but that we will talk about other forms of consuming these types of mushrooms that are not just in their physical whole form. And yes, that's a picture of it on the left. So if you see it in nature, if you're daring enough, go and grab one. But if not, this is what it will look like in the grocery store as well. So Veronica, you can talk about chaga.
Chaga is one of my faves, like lion's mane's top of the list, obviously, but chaga is actually, I use it as a coffee replacement. If my recipe for that, roasted dandelion root, roasted chicory root, and chaga mushroom. Wonderful, wonderful substitute for your morning coffee. It'll give you the same kind of like brain boost feeling without the caffeine. So it's really quite nice.
Yeah.
It also offers things like cognitive support. It's one of the highest natural sources of antioxidants in nature. It protects against cell damage. That's what antioxidants do. It's also good for immune support. So it enhances your immune function by stimulating your white blood cells. And that it won't overdo it like some medications might, because it's very hard to dose medications, but chaga is a food. So you'd have to eat an obscene amount of it for it to be harmful. It's anti-inflammatory, helps reduce systemic inflammation. It's also beneficial for arthritis, as an interesting side note. Blood sugar and cholesterol is really good because it can help regulate them. It also promotes heart health. And for your liver and your skin, it'll support liver detoxification and promotes healthier skin.
Yeah.
Plus, it's really
and it may
tasty.
not look appealing on the left-hand side, but it's probably the most popular one. Like all my friends tell me about how they take this one specifically
Well,
because of
it actually grows a lot of places around here because it grows on birch trees.
well, there you go. Maybe we can find some on our nature walk.
Might find some on our walk, but yeah, it grows on birch trees, especially decaying birch trees. It grows in chunks. You just rip off a chunk.
For sure. There we go. The last one I'm going to cover is, I always butcher how you say this. Reishi, whatever. I passed it. Reishi is, as you can see here on the left, is a very like, it looks like an ear. to me. That's
It's a
how
harder texture. It's not a very
Yes.
pliable mushroom. It's very hard.
Yeah, I agree with that. It helps the body adapt to stress and promote relaxation. So this one is not going to wake you up like lion's mane will, okay? It's more for like calming down. It's an immune modulator, which means that it balances the immune system by boosting it when needed and calming it when overactive. So it's actually like a good balance between the two. It also, like I said, with relaxation helps with sleep and mood, often to promote sleep, used to promote sleep quality and reduce anxiety so that you can go to sleep happy. Anti-cancer, it contains beta glucagons that may help slow tumor growth. So if you know anybody who has like a tumor, then this might be a good option for them. And then liver and heart health, it supports liver detox and may help regulate blood sugar and cholesterol. So this one has got a really good range on it. But like I said, this one's for calming down, whereas lion's mane's for energy. This is Veronica's recipe of the day.
This is one of my favorite recipes. I call it therapeutic hot chocolate, but it's very nourishing for your body and will just set your body back to a state of normal functioning so you can get more done with your day. Really easy to make. I use a raw cocoa because I just like the flavor a little better. It's a little more bitter than commercial cocoa, because especially the powdered hot chocolate stuff, because that's all sugar. But if you can get a really good raw cocoa, 2 tablespoons of that, ashwagandha root. Ashwagandha is that adaptogen that sets your body back to normal, helps you relieve stress. Really effective. You can get it at a bunch of health food stores as a powder or as a ground up root. Chaga mushroom, of course, because that's just my jam. If you want it, add some raw sugar or maple syrup for sweetness. You really don't need to, though. But if you find that the cocoa is a little too bitter, it might not be a bad idea to try adding a little bit. And it says optional at the top with coconut whipped cream, but that's never optional for me. That's just the thing you have to do.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's really easy. Just boil the water, put the ingredients in a mug, add the water and stir. Pop with coconut whipped cream. It's so easy, and just sip slowly and enjoy the flavor. Like there's studies that have shown that if you actually hold the liquid in your mouth for a couple of seconds before you swallow, it'll get absorbed through different parts of your digestive tract, which means it's going to hit you differently. So I try to do that because it just maximizes the effect.
Yes. And to add, you can obviously add a chaga mushroom to this. But most times when you're going to the grocery store and buying like any of these mushrooms, they actually do make them in powdered form too. There are some companies at health food stores that are like, it's just dehydrated version of it. Okay. So you don't have to feel like you have to stick a mushroom in a drink, but you can obviously dehydrate the mushrooms yourself and create them down to a powder. Or you can just buy them at the store. There are brands that make like hot cocoa powder with mushrooms, and that's all it is. It's just the two together, basically.
Actually,
yeah.
Four
Go ahead.
Sigmatic makes one. It's got ashwagandha, chaga, and reishi.
Yeah. There
Chile
are
hot chocolate.
They have many other options. I used to buy them at like Goodness Me and stuff like that. So just consider that if you want to go that route, but it's also might be a better option for you in the morning than your cup of coffee. So consider that. And then this is going to be, I hope Ivan chimes in on this one, because we actually had this conversation the other day. It's called Lion's Mane Steak. Now, if you have somebody who's vegan or just wants that like little extra boost, I'm going to tell you right now, I've made this before, and it's not that, like, obviously it's not going to taste like a raw steak, but it's still going, with all the different seasonings and all the different flavors that you're putting into it, it's very moist. Sorry, I know how people hate that word, but at the end of the day, all the flavors that you're seeing in it are going to just be the sole taste of this. So don't feel like you have to like switch obviously from steak, because I love steak and steak is my life. But this is a great alternative. Like I said, if you want to like just boost your immune system and you want to like boost your energy and stuff like that, and you want a vegan alternative, or however you want to take this. So obviously, for anybody who's vegan, you're not using butter or ghee. You're just going to use like any kind of oil that your heart desires. But this is a great option. And unfortunately, I wanted to share the directions on how to do it, but they were too long. So if you want to find the recipe for this, use the what do you call it? The URL at the bottom there. So take a picture, do whatever you want. I will also share them into our Facebook group later.
You know what? I just want to
Point
just say that
about
I picked up the lion's mane at Fortino's. It was really easy to find, and I followed a recipe on YouTube, and
Perfect.
it actually turned out really great. It's like a great steak for sure.
Honestly,
one
everybody.
interesting thing about making a steak out of a mushroom is you can use just about any type of mushroom you want. Lion's mane just tends to be more ideally sized,
Yes.
but I like doing it with puffball mushrooms. And if you've never tried a puffball mushroom, fully recommend. You can get those at a bunch of health food stores too, but they're just amazing.
Yes. Obviously Lance covered more topics of the other type of mushrooms. Guys, there's hundreds of mushrooms out there. Okay. I picked the top 3 because those are usually the ones that most people will go towards, or you'll find in the grocery stores or on a nature walk, which is a great time for Veronica to mention her upcoming event.
Yes, one of my favorite parts of nutrition school was when we went on the herb walk in the couple conservation areas. I did one in the spring and one in the fall because it's different plants. And I still do that just to like walk through the trails and see what I can identify, because you don't need to pick anything for it to be a productive outing, you know?
Yep.
And so what we're doing is we're putting together a balanced bites foraging walk. We're going to we're still, details are to be announced. We might be teaming up with a couple of groups that do this in the area just because we can have more people and more knowledge to share.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really good. So that's coming up in May. So we will post the information and we'll announce at the May edition the actual details.
We'll share it in the group and in on the This Great City website for sure. So we'll share it all across the board once we know more. And I believe we nailed our topic for next month on what do we call a holistic homestead?
Holistic homestead.
Yeah, how to prepare inside your house, outside your house, if you're living in an apartment building. We're going to give you all the tips and tricks on how to build a garden or grow something in the comforts of your home, okay?
Basically,
And
how to balance the energy too, because what you grow in your home, what you cook in your home, what you do in your home is going to very much affect the energy of the home and the people in it. So you got to be really mindful of that. So we're going to share a couple tips on just how to make sure that you're only bringing the best in.
Yeah. And this is a good conversation if you have like a big family or you're going to be spending Mother's Day with your family there. So definitely attend it for sure. But I want to open up the floor and ask if anybody has any questions for me or my mom or Lance. No. Well, I hope you all enjoyed today. Yes. Did anybody feel very educated? Okay, good. Catherine is very happy.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
how did you
That
feel?
was great information for sure.
Yeah. I would also personally love to have them both back if you guys want to hear more on mental health. Obviously, mental health is ongoing. It's not just April 1st. It's all days of the year. Maybe we can get them to come on and talk about different topics and stuff like that in the future.
Can I just say that, yeah, the stuff that I was paying attention to was the mind, because I have family that has some form of dementia, but not diagnosed to what kind of form. So hearing all those stuff that was for my brain health, it's like there's hope for me that I'm not as crazy as I think I am, you know, or I won't get crazier, maybe. But
we could do an entire episode just on brain health,
something like that, or for like again, once we get over that. I know for me, I'm post-menopausal, so there's that different bone structure, hormones, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. No,
and that definitely will affect everything.
Yeah.
Postmenopausal really does shift everything for a woman in regards to her overall health and cognitive function.
I might do a women's health 1 month because I do want to talk about the effects of hormones on your entire body, basically. And there's a lot of foods out there with added hormones, unfortunately, in them. So, and I feel like a lot of people are not educated enough on it. So maybe we'll do that in a couple months. But
I have to duck out, so I have to get back to my day job.
Yes. Yes,
Thanks,
thank you so
guys.
much.
Thanks for joining.
Yes, thank
Thanks,
you.
Linda.
If you guys have to go, you're more than welcome to go. I'm gonna stay on a little bit longer, but but thank you again. Like does everybody feel like they have ADHD now? I sure do.
Well,
You-
Lyndsay,
Well,
I feel like I'm the reason why my mom went into this study.
but I think it's kind of like somebody said, well, there's a lot of autism because they're recognizing that is not just such a narrow subject, many and all the things that we kind of hemmed and hawed about. And I think personally anyway, that ADHD is like that. Like most of us have some qualities
Yeah.
because it's environmental, right?
Absolutely, Catherine. Yeah.
You have to. But and again, I think it's a lot about it because Bill was saying, like, there's so much about it. And it's just because we're recognizing through better research and knowledge of, and what do they know, like an 18th of the brain?
Yeah.
It wasn't recognized when Catherine, you and I were kids. I mean, it was there, it was in the DSM, but it just was only if you had were a real problem child in school, right? They
Yeah,
didn't
and then
recognize any high functioning ADHD individuals at all.
and it was our parents' fault for not disciplining us enough.
Yeah, Lance, do you have AU DHD people?
Yeah, well, I deal with a lot of different people in my clinical practice. I've worked with many people with autism that have also ADHD diagnosis. But one of the things I want to say about what Catherine was saying in regards to people with ADHD is that, interesting enough, when you look at the DSM-5, and you compare the criteria for ADHD and the criteria for anxiety, they're almost identical.
Yep.
So what happens a lot in my clinical practice, and I see Linda shaking her head yes, is that I get a lot of people that come in and say, I think I have ADHD, and my doctor, my GP has put me on meds, it's not working and all this other stuff. But when I start peeling back their family of origin and I start peeling back all the layers of years that they've been doing stuff, I find out that actually what they have is anxiety, not ADHD, and vice versa. So you'll see it often very confused. And so I really am very cautious about stuff. And what Linda was saying about way back in the 70s. Well, my brother, who is a year and a half younger than me, was diagnosed at that time with hyperactivity disorder, because that's what they were calling it in BC at that time. And my mom was told to institutionalize him, or she would be institutionalized, because not only did he have a severe case, but also he was off the radar intelligent. He made Einstein in an IQ test look like a complete idiot.
That's
He is
more
now,
autism though, isn't it, Lance?
pardon?
Was he more autistic though?
No,
No?
no, no. But he was, my brother was, my brother's now a decorated RCMP officer, getting ready to retire, and is also a Red Seal electrician, and has
Ow.
managed both careers throughout the whole time.
Yeah.
Now I don't feel bad about all the times I went to school. I'm just gonna do them all.
Lyndsay, then individuals with ADHD will have many careers. One's due to boredom, and others is like following orders, a whole bunch of like conforming.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I'm
But
the
Yes.
rule
that's very
breaker.
common for someone with ADHD to have many
And-
careers.
Yes, I'm a
And
rule
now-
breaker. Obviously, I get dopamine from getting these tattoos. So
But the other piece to that job shifting, right, is also from a society standpoint, right? Back when your mom and I were young, our parents and everything, it was uncommon for people in our generation, to have 30 years with a company and never leave and grow
Yep.
old with that company. Like, I've got many cousins in Ontario that worked for Ma Bell. That's what they called her, right? Ma Bell. And they all worked for Ma Bell, or they worked for one of the car manufacturers, right? And they did that for a career. Nowadays, most people from the 70s and 80s, well, minimum 5 years. Now, in your generation, they're looking at a minimum of 10 different jobs, 10 different types of careers. Right?
yeah,
Even in my lifetime, I've been in private security. I've been a social worker in several different roles. I've owned my own business in regards to landscaping at 14. Right? I
Yep.
worked in hotels, restaurants, nightclubs. I've been all over the place in different jobs. A general laborer.
Wow. Now I don't, yeah, I definitely don't feel like that. Marketing, nutrition. Also, before that, I took theater arts. So,
My son is
That
35.
somehow I'm not
All those are
surprised.
creative though, Lindsay. You see that.
what were you saying,
Yeah.
Catherine?
I was gonna say my son stayed in the same profession, but he's gonna be 35 in May, and he just started his 7th job
Yeah.
Mhm.
in a 12 or 13-year career, right?
Interesting.
Where my
Yeah.
husband hired with 35 years out of the city.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't that's what my ex unfortunately didn't like about me was constantly changing jobs. But then when I finally said I just want to go back to school, this is the highest marks I've ever had going forward. I'm in my 30s now. I definitely
Because it's
regret
hyper focus. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something you
Yeah,
enjoy.
but I was
when
gonna
it's
say is that I
something-
was never this focused at 18 doing theater arts in a
No,
30
but it-
credit program.
It just depends on how much it gives you, feeds your dopamine, how much you enjoy it, how much it
My
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say
Exactly.
my kids were all B and C in high school, other than my daughter was really going into healthcare. So she made sure the science was high. But both my children graduated with honors
Nice.
on the dean's list because they were in something they wanted to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what Lyndsay said. When one of my children were so tiny, they would be so hyper focused on playing with Lego that I could see them laying on their tummy and go to the washroom. No, I'm okay. Go to, because they just wanted to keep focusing on what they were doing.
I
Yeah.
feel like all of us are now gonna start analyzing everybody around us and being like, do you
No.
have ADHD?
Not Anna, you
You mean you
recognize.
don't do that already?
That's so true, Kristen. I
Just
look
rec-
for those people now. Kristen always makes this good point that us neurospicy people find each other.
We do. I know very few neurotypical people.
That's true, and you will be attracted to those types of people.
Yeah, Kristen,
It's because we understand the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
but
we
it's
are the chaos, Kristen.
We
She's
are
my
the
best.
chaos.
She's my best friend and my sister, so she gets it. No, so I'm super glad y'all were willing to stick around this late because these presenters were amazing and I even learned a lot of stuff. And so obviously attend next month. Veronica and me didn't mention this, but going forward, we're gonna try really hard to do keep to our Tuesday, obviously, Zoom call, but also incorporating an in-person event while the weather's nicer and we want to get all that vitamin D that Lance and my mom mentioned. So we don't have to take whatever me and you take, Lance, 10,000 IUs or 5,000
Yes.
IUs of it. But yes, if you have any suggestions for like events or anywhere you want to do or anything, I think we were talking about even doing an in cooking seminar to teach you guys some recipes. Unfortunately,
Here's
Lance
an
can't
idea.
attend that, but sorry.
Well, here's what you do. You do a walk and you do some foraging, and
Yep.
then you come back and you take what you forage and you create a recipe with it.
I like that idea. I like
Right.
that. Gotta find the space.
So we do a lot of foraging here. So when you're talking about chaga, that's something we actually go get ourselves.
Okay.
And we dehydrate it ourselves,
God, I
and
would
we do all that,
die.
right?
Oh my
So same with chanterelle mushrooms. We do all that. So we do a lot of this stuff ourselves.
Perfect. I would love it if I found like just a bountiful amount of lion's mane in the wild. I would just
Just
give it up.
just remember, responsible harvesting is the key.
Yes, that's part of the reason why we're doing the walk, so that you understand that we're not like completely depleting the forest of it. We should only take a little bit, and what parts of the plant you should be taking, because some things like burdock can be considered like poisonous if you take the wrong part. Okay.
Yep.
So this is why you come with a trained professional and live like your ancestors, because yes, they ate food too, and no, they didn't have McDonald's or Oreos or anything else.
And
like that.
McDonald's isn't for food.
Yes,
FYI.
that too. So live like our ancestors. So anyways, does anybody have any more questions or anything for Lance or my mom or anything else they want to comment on?
I was
No?
just going to comment the fact that
Mhm.
When people do different backgrounds and
Yep.
different aspirations,
Yep.
it's having backup plans for backup plans because life keeps changing.
That's so
Mhm.
true.
It
Yeah, I
is.
know somebody who used to say to me as a kid, I'm in a profession that is never going to die. And recently he lost his job. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, you tried. I'm not mad at that or anything. And I felt really bad. But at the end of the day, I was like, nothing is certain. You thinking you having a job at the Amazon warehouse is going to guarantee you? Jeff Bezos will go blow all your money tomorrow. Okay. On a new
Adapt and
yacht.
overcome.
Yeah. Who's the most reliable person? Yourself. Okay?
Mhm.
You are the one who's going to move you forward. You are the one who's going to keep the lights on. You are the one who's going to take care of yourself. So that's why mental health matters, people. So, any other comments or anything, guys? No? Okay, thank you again. Appreciate the both of you. Once the recording is out, I will send it to everybody. And it'll be up on YouTube for all of you to watch again and again and again until the ADHD sticks. Okay? But I will see you guys. I think the next day will be, oh gosh, that's far. May the 6th. So I will